the Dream 100 Show. The epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tesner.
So how do you get ahead of 95+% of other entrepreneurs, other business owners, as we speak? The good thing about the next 2 weeks is that most entrepreneurs, most business people tend to start pulling back the momentum. They tend to put a foot off the gas. They tend to start to slow down around the holidays. Now, I want you to slow down a little bit. I want you to take at least a couple of days off during the holiday time. But I need you to have a couple of critical things in place before the clock strikes midnight. So one of our avid listeners of the Dream 100 show wrote in and said, what would you do right now if I'm feeling massively unprepared from a planning perspective for next year? And the answer is pretty basic, but I'm going to give you a couple of different elements to it. So the first thing, before I get into marketing, planning, or anything like that, the document that I've referenced on this show many, many times is this painted picture and or vivid vision. It is referred to in both dimensions. It was initially called Painted Picture by a guy named Cameron Herold, and then he wrote a book called Vivid Vision. As I'm saying it out loud, maybe the Vivid Vision does sound better. I always thought Painted Picture was better, but I digress. What this document does, even if you do nothing else that I'm going to teach you in today's episode, this document allows you and your team, you and yourself, you and your freelancers, you and your vendors to get aligned. When there's misalignment on where do we want to head, it becomes very challenging for you to make strategic decisions. It almost becomes a little bit of a toss. Well, what do we want to do next year? What do we want to do in Q1? If your vendors, if your team, if they don't know what you are thinking, how can they best help you? So I'll give you a quick recap of this Painted Picture, Vivid Vision document. It is a plan that you write 3 years out from today, and it's written as if it had already happened. So it's written in past tense. Wow, the last 3 years were absolutely amazing. Here are all the cool things that occurred. And I want you to talk through the financial metrics. I want to talk through how much money you personally made, the culture at your company, the awards that you've won, how many team members you have, what are your products or services? Did you buy companies? Did you sell your company? How much free time do you have? I want all of that stuff listed so it's pulled out of your mind. All these amazing things that you're constantly thinking about, you need to get them on paper. Study after study after study shows that I don't have the exact statistic, I probably should, but I believe that it's at least 2x more likely that you hit your goals if you just write them down. You could do nothing else, just write them down. You're now 2x more likely to hit some or all of those goals. So the first thing you're doing is getting all this stuff onto paper, but putting it into the universe. Number two, it's that aspect of alignment. When your team, when your vendors, when people can start to read this and see, well, this is where the owner wants to go, the chances are a lot higher they're going to find ways to make some of these things happen. But if they're clueless on what do you actually want to have happen, like how can they help you if you're thinking in your mind next year, I want to buy 5 companies, and they're thinking that we need to hire 20 people before we can do anything and we're busting at the seams. How do you start to get that alignment? You get it out of your head, write it as if it had already happened, and then, for me, I then write, here's what happened in 2026. And that is taking the 3 years and boiling down the things that I believe we can make happen in 2026. And that is where your team, they can have the bigger vision, so the 3-year vision, but they also can then have what's going to happen this year. And their job is to then help make this tactical. You're not going to have every single thing figured out, but you want to have the ideas on to paper, technically in like a Google Doc. But if you want to write paper, you can do paper as well. If you don't have this document, you need to do it from scratch. Plain and simple. Re-listen to the episode. I'll link it in the show notes where I talk about this concept in full. Get it written out. You can have this done in half a day. If you already have one, my favorite time to update this is in the next 2 weeks. I update it, I reflect, I pause, I come back to it again, and then I shelve it for the rest of the year. And then in the first and second week of January, I look at it once more, make any other edits. Maybe I didn't love that. I completely forgot about that. And then I give it to the team. I read it to the team verbatim. We do it on our quarterly kickoff. Great, we're kicking off the quarter. Here's the vivid vision. Here's what we're going to make happen this year. And of all of this, the most important piece is that you, and then secondarily your team, need to be excited about it. If you're putting this together and you're putting down things that you're just putting for the sake of writing, that's not going to get you excited. It's your company, your business. You need to be excited about what's on paper. And then from there, we've got to get your team rallied. And if you're reading this and you don't have any inflection in your voice, and okay, great, in 2026 the goal is to hit $3 million in revenue and have another 5 people, and I think we're going to do an acquisition. So your team is going to grab your energy. They're going to be like, yo, how are we buying in? Like, how can we rally behind this if you can't even rally? So that's the first exercise, the first thing that I need you to get done. Now that in and of itself will put you ahead of most entrepreneurs. But the second piece is your simplified marketing planning for Q1. Now, what I like to do and what I teach is take out Excel, sheet of paper, or Google Sheets. For me, Google Sheets. I want to have a tab for each month, but I'm only going to focus on the first quarter, January, February, March. Now, the first tab, I will list out all of the months. And what I'm aiming for you to do, if you are able, is put down a theme for each of the months. Now, when I say theme, it's going to vary drastically based on the type of business you have. If you're a landscaper in Buffalo, do you offer snow plowing? Well, then your theme for January might be, do you still need snow plowing for this snowy time? February might be some more brand building, and you're talking about how you love your customers, and you start to show some of those fun transformations. March could be talking about getting ready for the spring cleanup. Get on the list early, put a deposit now. And then you build out just a simple theme for each month. April showers, bring May flowers. Maybe that's more of the spring cleanup. May could be talking about getting your lawn cut. Are you signed up for our lawn service? June, July, August could all be about hardscapes or things like that. September could be getting ready for fall. I don't want to be talking about fall already, but fall cleanups, closing out for so you want to be able to build out the themes. The themes could be what you're promoting that month. They could be, are you doing a customer referral campaign, a customer appreciation month, a big sale, Black Friday stuff in November? What are the themes for the month, just at an overarching level? What I like about having it for the year is just so from a broad stroke standpoint, you're not planning your entire calendar for the year. We're focusing on January, February, March, but you can at least make sure that you are in alignment then for the remainder of the year so that you're staying ahead of the curve. Step 3, so step 1 was the painted picture. Step 2, you're building out this document. Tab number 1 is listing out the months and then the theme for each month. And then from there, January, February, March, here's what you do. What are you going to be pushing, promoting? What's the message? So what are you going to be doing? With that, when are you going to send something? So for example, if January you're talking about snow plowing, are you going to send an email, a text message? What are the tactical elements? So you have your theme for the month. Let's get ahead of the snow. Are you a last minute person that still needs snow plowing? Great. How are you going to get that theme out? Emails, text messages, Facebook ads, videos, social media, direct mail, like what are you going to be doing? So you've got the dates as to when things are going to be going out. You've got the what, so the tactical aspect. You've got the who, so column 3, who. Who is responsible for making sure that that email gets sent, that direct mail campaign gets executed, the Facebook ad? They might all have your name on them. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully you have an agency, like mine, for example, selfishly speaking. Team members. Now there might be 5 people that are involved in an email, but who is the one person? One person. That's it. One person needs to be held accountable. Now with that, you then move to the next column. How much are you willing to invest? The email campaign, maybe that's 0. It's just software tools. Text message, 0. Software tools. Direct mail, $3,000 maybe, for example. Facebook ads, Google ads, other ads. Are you getting videos done? Like, what are you doing? But put your budget for each of those elements. I want you to start to formulate your marketing budget. And when we've talked through budgets and numbers, I've given you so many different variations as to how it can be done. It varies based on industry, but the rough number is 7 to 12% of your projected gross sales. If your landscaping business is projecting to hit $1 million, let's say 1.2, just for simple math. You know I love simple math. And let's say every month is created equal, which in landscaping it surely would not be, but let's say every month is 100 grand. That's what you're aiming to hit, $100,000 in revenue. Then I want to see ideally $7,000 to $12,000 of marketing investment each month for ad spend, for agencies, for search engine work, for AI work on getting you ranking in Agentic, on videos, on referral campaigns. I want to see those dollars so that you can start to plan. Again, we're only planning Q1. So what are the marketing dollars? And then the final column is notes and grade. As you hit send on an email, as you deploy direct mail, as you put up a billboard, as you run ads, as things start to go live and you start to see the fruit, I want to know what the results were. We sent 1,000 emails. The open rate was 30%. We had 9 people that replied. 5 ended up buying our final end of year or New Year snow package celebration or whatever. Great. What is the result of the next thing? The next thing, the next thing. This one nosedived it. We sent out 5,000 direct mail pieces. We got 1 phone call, 0 business. Investment was 3,000. I live in the land of, did it make us money or not? Yes or no? So when I say grade, you got old school grading, A, B, C, D, or F. I always say E. I don't know why they skipped E, but I'm sure there's some reason behind it. A, I made money. F, I didn't. Now other people, well, maybe we'll give it a C. We had some good open rates on the email. Didn't really result in anything yet, so we'll put a C, but it might improve. So the nice thing with these campaigns is they get better like a fine wine with age, but the campaign could improve. You could send an email in January, you get 9 replies, 1 person buys, but then next month 5 of those other ones buy. So it's kind of that delayed effect. Not everyone buys right away from a direct response standpoint. But then I would go back in and I would update and I would say, I initially graded it a C. In January, we only had 1 person buy. However, I've upgraded this to an A because 5 more people ended up buying in the month of February. So then what you know with that campaign next year, because you're also aiming to get this together, you're building it out and grading it so that you can have the data, is you know that you've got a campaign in January that you're not going to see all the fruit until February. So great, well, let's maybe front load a little bit of stuff, maybe a little bit earlier next year. Let's maybe test it in in December and see, come January, does that fruit end up resulting? So you're putting down the date, what are the tactics, who is responsible, what's the budget, and then the notes and the grade. And I want you to do that for January, February, March. You take your theme. You could have a couple of different themes during the course of the month. What are those tactical things that are going to get deployed? By when? How much money? How are you then tracking so that you can see the fruit? And when you do this, you literally are ahead of 95% of people. You've got a plan that you can see in black and white. Are we deploying it? Yes or no? What is the result? We invested $7,000. We got X revenue as a result. Black and white. Most businesses reinvent the wheel day after day after day, year after year, month after month. This plan should not be getting constantly reinvented. If you have themes that are working, repeat the theme. So I don't know what worked. Well, now you will, because you're going to do this every month. As you then move into February, you can start working on Q2 and start getting ahead of that. You look at the themes that you had already written. Do those themes still make sense? Great. Let's start building out based on the data for Q1. Let's make some tweaks. That's why I never build out an entire plan for the year, because you're going to look at the data. The data might tell you, great, you want to invest $7,000, you're going all in on Facebook ads. And you might think we need to have 50 different things going on. I never put all of my eggs in one basket, but you might build this plan for Q1, test out a bunch of stuff, and realize that one thing is working so much better. Well, if you had already built out your whole plan for the year, you're now going to have to retool it. Focus on Q1, dominate Q1, but put this in place now so that you're not walking into the year, what are we promoting? When are we sending an email? How are we marketing? What's the budget? Get this stuff out there so that you're ready in advance. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.